Hello everyone, welcome again to another Narc Survivor live video. In this one talking about how you can tell when a narcissist hasn't moved on. And this is based on a live video that I did, must be about 4 or 5 years ago now. And yeah, I was just looking through some of my popular live videos and I thought I'd remake this one. So let's talk about this video again, this topic of the signs that a narcissist hasn't moved on. Because that's what many of you may be dealing with. I mean, it really depends because, you know, as I often talk about, there are different kinds of narcissists. There really are. And if you were dealing with a very powerful, successful, wealthy narcissist who's very attractive and has lots of options, they've got lots of things going on in their lives. Now, those types of narcissists, whether male or female, yes, they can just appear to move on and never return again. You never hear from them. That can happen. And actually that happens a lot. And sure, some of you may have been dealing with that. But typically, you know, those of you who were dealing with that type of narcissist, you get over them quite quickly. So you're unlikely to be watching too many of those videos. But yeah, I mean, there's another type of narcissist who doesn't really have so much going on in their lives. And that's the whole point, is that at the beginning, they made it seem like they did. They made it look like they had busy lives and they were successful. They made it out like they're so much more attractive than what they really are. And those are the ones that remain stuck on you. Those are the ones that especially never move on. But even then, I mean, even the ones who are very wealthy and successful and attractive, they don't really move on because they still don't give you the closure. They don't end the chapter. They don't close the book. They leave it open. So even those narcissists, they don't typically move on. And even they may just end up searching for you in someone else. And you may see that happening. And you may notice that with celebrities, that they do this. It's like the next person they're with, they're trying to replace the last person. But yeah, most of you are watching this, you were likely dealing with a narcissist who really just completely lied to you, future faked you. And they were just completely delusional, making it out like they're so attractive, wealthy, successful, everything. Like there's someone you really want to be with. And then you later find out that they're actually nothing like that. They haven't really got anything going on in their lives. And instead, they were just conning you. So in reality, they haven't really got anything. And they're not really that attractive. They're just not anything special at all. And you've just been groomed, manipulated into being with someone who really isn't even all that. Because of course, these are the ones who tend to be really jealous, possessive, controlling. Not always, of course. I mean, there's always exceptions. And to know that, we just got to look at the P. Diddy, the Puff Daddy case. Because clearly, you know, I mean, I don't know if he's attractive, but, you know, he was clearly very successful, famous, wealthy. And yet he couldn't let Cassie go. So, you know, there's always these exceptions, but typically it's people who haven't got anything else to do. They haven't got anything else going on in their lives. They are the ones who are really jealous, possessive, controlling. These are the ones who do this, and they just sell you a dream based off of their potential or just complete manipulation. So those are the ones who tend to do that. But yeah, you're going to know when a narcissist hasn't moved on, because they keep bringing up things from the past, things that you may have done years ago. And it's not like you just blew them off. You tried to make it up to them. You did make it up to them. And not only that, you did far more than what they deserved. Like, as an example, let's talk about it in terms of money, because it's, it's quite an easy analogy to describe. Essentially, it's like you borrowed money off them, and this could have been years ago, as an example. You may not have, but so you borrowed money off them, and it was kind of like a loan with interest, as it would be with a narcissist. So you took the money, and then you ended up paying them back maybe double. And they're still holding a grudge. They're still bringing it up. Remember that time when I loaned you money? You got to do this for me now. And yet, it's always a double standard with them. So maybe you loaned them money, and they didn't even pay you back 10% of that, maybe nothing. And yet they're complaining when you bring that up. And this could be something that happened maybe a few months ago. And the thing that where you loaned from them, that could have been years ago. And yet they'll still invalidate you for bringing that up, as though you have no right to, but they can. You see how it doesn't make any sense? It's very unjust, very unfair. It's like you can't bring up anything from the past, but they can bring up things that really don't even mean anything, like turning molehills into mountains. And then they turn their mountains into molehills. This is what they do. Because really, if you look back at it and you see everything that they've done, I mean, yeah, of course, we're human, we're not perfect. You may have made some mistakes, but they've done 100 times, 1,000,000 times worse than you. And yet they're the ones bringing up things from the past. How does that make any sense? As the old saying goes, it's like the pot calling the kettle black. That's what this is. It's what they're doing. They're trying to say that you're bad or that you didn't do something right, when they've done things far worse. They've done far worse than you ever have. So it really doesn't make any sense. And not only that, but you've done everything you can to try and make things better for them, to make them happy. And it's just never enough. And you've done far more than you ever should have. And as for them, they never made up for anything that they did to you. So what I'm saying is, if you're still in contact with them, or if they're still around, if you're still seeing them, and you're bringing up things from the past that are unresolved, then that's completely understandable. You're still dealing with them. And as an example, maybe you loaned them money, they never paid you back. So, they may want your forgiveness. They may want you to trust them again. They may want you to move on, but they don't even deserve that. And this is it. It's like they're waiting for you to move on, and then as soon as you do, that's when they get you. So, it's understandable if you haven't moved on yet. And of course, there's always going to be other narcissists, so you can never truly move on. It's kind of like with anything in life that poses a constant threat to you, how are you meant to move on? You can't. I mean, there's narcissists everywhere in this world. You can't ever move on from them. They're always going to be there. It's just like someone telling you to move on from the rain. Like, stop wearing a hood, stop bringing an umbrella. I mean, how stupid would that be? It's always going to be there. It's not going anywhere. I mean, maybe if it just stopped raining first, then it would make more sense. So don't let them twist it around on you. Don't let them make you think that it's you who can't move on. I mean, they're still a constant threat. But yeah, they will bring up things from the past. And they will use it against you. They will use it to make you feel bad and to pull you into the narcissistic fog, the fear, obligation, and guilt. And you will know when they haven't moved on, because they'll be constantly trying to provoke you, always trying to get your attention, your reactions. I mean, what do they need that for if they have healed, if they have moved on? When someone has moved on, they don't care. They're indifferent. They're not trying to provoke you. They're not trying to get reactions out of you. It doesn't matter to them anymore. They don't need that because they've got their own validation. The narcissist is still pushing your buttons, provoking you, seeking a reaction because they haven't moved on. And that's why you may notice as well that they're stalking your social media. You may see that they're always watching your stories, even though the relationship may have ended. They're still watching everything that you do. And they're still trying to compete with you even after the relationship ends. Because from the beginning of the relationship, you were their reference point. And they never knew about this world where you resided. They were never aware of it, that someone like us could exist. Someone who's so genuine, so kind, so deep. Someone who's so hardworking, disciplined, successful, motivated. And you opened them up to this world, and then they began to see everything that you are, everything that you do. And it definitely made an impact on them. Clearly affected them, because now they can't move on. Now they're just thinking about you now. And they're stalking you on social media. They're watching all of your stories, your posts, everything. And they're constantly trying to compete with you. That's how you know that you really made an impact on them. When they're really envious and jealous is when they're trying to compete with you. They're trying to intimidate or overwhelm you. And also you may see them copying your style, your interests, or your new lifestyle. They're trying to be just like you. You may see that they're trying to wear similar clothes. They're doing their hair a certain way. They're getting involved in certain hobbies or listening to certain music. They're trying to be just like you. They're trying to appeal to your interests and ideals. And they would even do that and go off into another relationship with a new supply, continuing with that. This is how you know that they haven't moved on. When they are going off and trying to be with someone who they deem to be similar to you, and they're trying to act similar to you, and they're chasing similar goals and dreams, trying to do what you do, trying to do something that appeals to you, and using it to try and provoke envy or jealousy in you. Before you start thinking that you're missing out on something, you just got to recognize that, no, they haven't moved on. This is why they're copying what you like to do, your style, your interests, because you became their reference point and it left an impact on them, and they can't move past it. So that's what's really happening. Because otherwise, I mean, why don't they just go back to what they were doing before? And they could say the same thing about you, but they won't let you go back. They won't let you do what's authentically you. Because of course, what do? They spread rumors about you. They try to ruin your reputation. They don't want you to be you, because they want to be you. Because they can't move on past you. They're never going to move on. And, this is it. What do they got to move on to? Move on to what, isn't it? And this is why, they hover around your mutual friends, your family, around spaces where they know that you're going to be. This is why, because they've got nothing to move on to. And that's why they targeted you. That's why they got involved with you to begin with, is because they had nothing. They had nothing going on in their lives. There was nothing that inspired or motivated them. It just made them feel good about themselves. And that's why they latched on to you, hoping that you would provide their lives with meaning and purpose. So they never had anything anyway. And yeah, another way you'll know that they haven't moved on is when they randomly contact you just to check in. It's like, for no reason at all, they just pop up out of the blue. And you may not have heard from them for months. It's like all of a sudden, here they come. Like the last thing you heard from them, they were moving on with a new supply. And clearly things didn't go so well for them, because now they're coming back. Now they're messaging you again, they're calling you, liking your posts on social media. Does that sound like someone who's moved on? And think about it, why would they come back if you were the problem? They come back because they remember they had a bargain, a good deal with you. Of course they want to come back to that. Of course they want to come back for another slice of the pie, fresh out the oven. But sometimes, when they can't move on, sometimes because of their pride and ego or their fear of rejection, they may just try and post things online to make you jealous, to make you feel like something has been taken away from you. Sometimes they might give you something and then take it away. Because you know how selfish they can be. I mean, they never really give you anything to leave you feeling like you've lost it. They just constantly take from you. So, there's nothing for them to take away by the end of it, because they've already just taken it all. So once they've taken everything, I mean, they really have to give you something. So then they go to the bait and switch. As an example, they might post like an old picture of the two of you together online, or send it to you, or send a song that you both like to listen to that may remind you of when you first met. So they're giving you a memory. They're giving you something to reminisce about, just so then they can pull the rug out from underneath you. They can then take it away to try and provoke jealousy and leave you chasing after them because they've got too much pride and ego. They're far too arrogant, far too delusional. They think they're perfect. They lack self-awareness, clearly, because there's no accountability. And they may also fear rejection. So that's why they use the bait and switch, to get you to chase after them. And again, when you see this, and they're trying to provoke jealousy in you and make you feel like you're losing something now, but you've already lost everything with them anyway. But everything that you had, you already lost it. But then they throw something out to try and hook you in. When you see that, don't fall for it. And instead recognize, okay, they still haven't moved on. And this is it. This is why they do what they do, because they can't move on, so they don't want you to move on. I mean, what good is it if you can move on, but they can't? They feel like they're being left behind, and that's why they have this crabs in the bucket mentality. They're always trying to pull you into something. And it's already just a projection of what they're dealing with, what they're going through, of what they can't process. Some narcissists who can't move on may even create fake crises, emergencies, where they're like this damsel in distress, they're playing the victim. Some of them may even self-harm or threaten to commit suicide. Anything to pull you back in, anything to get your attention, anything to guilt trip you, to make you feel bad for them, to make you feel obligated. Whatever they think is going to work on you, they will try it. Because they need your attention, validation. They need you back in their lives. They need to have influence and control over you because they still can't move on. And they still blame you for everything that went wrong because there's a lack of self-awareness, no accountability. And yet, they will exaggerate how happy and successful they are. Again, it's to try and provoke jealousy, a fear of missing out, to pull you back into something that you never wanted to be a part of anyway, and never would have been involved in if you knew what it was from the start. But this is why, they will jump into a new relationship and flaunt it. Because it's all just about trying to get reactions out of you, trying to provoke an emotion in you, jealousy. Because of course, what does a person do when they're being made to believe that something is being taken away from them? Of course, if they're not aware of it, they're going to chase after it. And that's what they want you to do. Because your attention, validation means that much to them. They can't live without having this control over you. And it's because of unresolved trauma from their childhood, which has led into your relationship with them. And it's why they can't move on. It's why they can't let you go. It's why they keep trying to pull you back. And jealousy is one of the main tools that they use. Because of course, and you may not have thought much about it before because, you're not the type of person to provoke jealousy in people. You're not trying to get people to chase after you, so you don't even know. And you don't even see it. You may not even be aware of it. But this is what they do. They use jealousy. They flaunt their new partner or a new job, their success, and it's exaggerated to make you feel like you're missing out on something, so that you then chase after them. You then give them your attention. That's what they want. But they're never looking to resolve things. I mean, there's never anything that they really need closure on. Why would they? Because you weren't even the problem. They were doing all of these things to you, so what do they need closure for? And that's why they don't ever come to you asking you anything, like why you said what you said or did what you did. Sometimes they'll just bring something out from the past and they'll use that against you, but that's all that it's for. It's just using something against you. It's not something they actually care about. And because deep down they know, all of the things that they do, and they've always got to be in control over everything. They're always trying to provoke you. Of course, you're going to react a certain way at some point. They do know that, so they don't ever need closure from you because they know that it always originates from them anyway. But yeah, this is why they can't stand it when you ignore them. Because they haven't moved on, they can't move on. You know how a person moves on? You have to do what we do. You've got to look within, self-reflect. Take personal responsibility, even if it was all their fault. You still have to come within. And you have to process the emotions. You have to regulate yourself. And tune out everything else. And just focus on you. Focus on, what am I going through right now? How am I feeling? How did this make me feel? And why did it make me feel that way? I mean, yeah, they may have done certain things, said certain things to me, trying to provoke jealousy. But also I have to accept that. I have to accept that I felt this and that it was a part of me. Even if it was provoked from the outside, it was still stirred up inside of me. And, when you have this mindset, that is how you move on from something. And it's really just a process of learning it, having the awareness. And when you do, you can move on very quickly. You really can. I mean, the more things that you've been through, it comes with experience. And it's really all just about going within, taking accountability, self-awareness, personal responsibility, processing emotions. And of course, these are all things that they refuse to do. They're like a child. They can't manage their own emotions. They're always blaming you for everything. This is why they can't move on. This is why they can't let it go. This is why they're never going to find peace, because that's within themselves. And that's the last place they ever want to go. They'll go anywhere outside of themselves, seeking distraction, escapism, anything other than to go within. So these are the signs, that they can't move on. And, I also did a live video about this about 4 or 5 years ago. And, that video too, I mean, definitely check that one out. It's a live video. So lots of great information in that one too. Urban Angst says they want to merge with the victim so that they can individuate later, but miserably fail and have to do it all over again with a new partner. Compulsive repetition. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, what you're describing there, that's part of Professor Sam Vaknin's dual mothership theory. And if you don't know, I mean, Sam Vaknin, he actually coined the term narcissistic abuse, as well as many others, such as flying monkeys, I think. And yeah, that's his theory, is the dual mothership. which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's really about them. They view you as their mother that they had trauma with in childhood, because of course, their emotional needs were unmet. They were emotionally neglected. And it's clear to see that, when you look at their behavior. So, yeah, initially they merge with you. It's like they're merging with this mother figure because, as empaths, codependents, people pleasers, we're very loving, caring, compassionate. So they feel like they're merging with us at first. And initially it regulates them, it makes them feel loved, or the false self at least. And that's a part of why they then individuate, in my theory at least. It's because it was just a false self anyway. And then you realize that it isn't real, so then the show is over. And then that's why they then go on for someone else who hasn't learned them yet, who doesn't know who they're really dealing with, someone who will validate it. But yeah, that's just it, in childhood, we need our emotional needs to be met before we can individuate from our mother. And their emotional needs were never met. So now they're constantly seeking a mother figure, someone to regulate their emotions, and they feel regulated by provoking reactions in you. Jan Campbell says they attack what they lack. That's it, whatever they're deficient in, that's what they get mad at. It's what they envy. If this video has been good for you so far, give it a thumbs up. Thank you. Guardian of Galaxies asks, how do I know I am not the narcissist? I have had rough relationships. Well, that's the thing. If you were a narcissist, you would have to be one who's self-aware, and most narcissists are not self-aware. And even the ones who are, they're probably not going to consistently take accountability. They're not going to try and self-improve. So, yeah, it's very unlikely that you would be a narcissist. But definitely, do a quiz online. And, just pay attention to, do you have empathy? Are you always just thinking about yourself, or do you consider other people's feelings and needs? Do you have boundaries? Do you know that there's like a line that you shouldn't cross with people? Or in your relationships, did you walk on eggshells? Ask yourself these questions, because these are signs that there's really no way that you could be a narcissist. And of course, these are the questions that I've asked myself, because, being with a narcissist, they'll always make you think that it's you. And for me, I know there's no way, it would be impossible for me to be a narcissist myself. I'm sure, yes, of course, I could possibly have one or two, maybe even three narcissistic traits to some degree. But I am highly empathic, and I definitely feel other people's feelings like they're my own. I share their experience like it's my own. Of course, that's what made me such an ideal target for so many people. And also, I'm very careful not to cross over people's boundaries. I'm very compassionate and respectful of them. So, it sounds like maybe you were invalidated, gaslighted. If you're asking yourself this question. And so really just remind yourself from past experiences, like things that you have done for people and things that you didn't do, which will remind you how, if a narcissist was in that position, they would have acted differently. Heike Homestead says, true, they are competing. We aren't. We are just concentrated on ourselves. Yeah, it's always a competition for power with them because they're deeply insecure, especially around you. And think of it like this, anytime that you have power, control over yourself, they feel like they're losing because the way they see it, you've hit the jackpot. You having power and control over yourself because they know that you're something valuable. If they really believe that you weren't anything, they wouldn't care. They'd be like, all right, yeah, fine, you jump in the driver's seat of this garbage truck. Enjoy it. They'll just be laughing at you. They don't do that because, no, they do know the value that you possess. That's why they don't want you to have power over yourself. They don't want you to have your own autonomy. Because they see just how valuable you are. They want to have power over that. If you're wondering why my water is slightly discolored, it's because I put a bit of apple cider vinegar in it, which is good for the body, it's good for the guts. It's good for all kinds of things. And I do feel like it gives me more energy. So give that a try, Get some apple cider vinegar. Put maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons per 1.5 liters. Let me know how it feels for you. But remember, I'm not a doctor. Layla says, toxic people always do this. Create drama for attention. Yeah, they do. And it's because they can't get attention any other way. I mean, try actually being dedicated to something. Like a sport or some kind of activity. Get attention that way. But that's fine, if you've worked hard at something, and if it's genuine, if it's sincere, then yeah, of course, that deserves to be celebrated. I personally feel like it's a crime against humanity. I mean, if someone has worked hard and people aren't acknowledging it and, giving them their props, I mean, that's really bad, of course. People deserve to be celebrated on their hard work. And, if anyone feels intimidated by it, and, this person is genuine, like not a fraud, and it's just their genuine hard work and dedication, if anyone feels intimidated by that, then it's your job to check yourself. And instead of hating, learn from them. Learn about the work that they put in and how they achieved it. If they don't want you to do that, if they're trying to hide it from you, there's probably a reason for it. Because, I know it myself. I mean, as someone who is genuinely confident genuinely hardworking and successful, I'm happy to share my work with people. I'm happy to show them what I've done to get to where I am today. And you can see all of it. You can see all of my videos on here. Nearly 5,000 videos, because I'm real. But yeah, there's some people out there. And you may wonder, there could be people out there who appear successful. It's not really intimidation. You just feel like you're kind of off-put by them. It's kind of like you feel disgust. And that's not envy. It's a difference. You can tell that something's not right. Something's not adding up. They'll try and make you think that you're envious of them, but no, it's different. It's like, if you could see the hard work, if you could see what they're actually doing to get there, then you could be happy for them. But no, you don't see that, and you feel like something's not right. I felt that myself many times before. You're not alone if you have felt that. But yeah, you were essentially like the, what's the word? I mean, how do I describe this to you? You're like the accelerator. You're like the booster, the torque, like the bounce that helps them to ricochet and rebound and like take off in another direction. That's essentially what you are for the narcissist. When they keep you down, it's like they, I don't know how to describe this. It's kind of, yeah, that's it. It's like you're like a trampoline. So they like step on you, they like push you down, and then they just take off into the air. That's what they do. It's like you give them a push, momentum. That's essentially what you are as a source of supply. You help them to build up momentum. It's like you motivate them in a way, but it's at your expense. It's from keeping you down. You've got to bring something lighthearted to this topic. Laughter is the best medicine. So yeah, you just got to picture them. When they go off the rebound, just imagine yourself as like a trampoline. Or they're just jumping off you and just take it off. Just imagine like you got a trampoline in your backyard, and I don't know, maybe you got a fence, and it's like they just jump on you, the trampoline, and just take off into the neighbour's yard. And then that's their new supply. 0 to Hero says, guard your heart, guys. You've got to be very careful who you open yourself up to, who you're vulnerable around. And, I remember speaking about this before. Like I concluded by the end of the video But the video is about, should you still wear your heart on your sleeve after dealing with a narcissist? Can you still be open and vulnerable with people? And I concluded at the end of it, the answer is no. You should learn from that to not wear your heart on your sleeve. It's very dangerous. Because when you're doing that, you're opening yourself up. And other people, they're acting like they're with you. They're really not. And they're just seeking for like an opening where they can get in and disrupt everything and extract your energy. And because they're unlike you, you're not going to get the energy back. They're going to rob you of it. And this is why, you see me, I wear shades and I often have earphones in. And, you should see how I walk around in public. You should see me when I go out. I'm walking around, and, as you can see, I'm a relatively confident person in myself. I'm very self-motivated. And yeah, I'll often just look down. I'll just look down at the floor. Or if someone's walking towards me, I won't look at them, I'll just look the other way. That's what I do, and I've been doing that for a long time. And it got to a point where they, as I mentioned before, they made this Twitter parody page about me, and there was one guy who posted up on there. He was copying how I am. And he took a picture with, he's just like looking down on the Twitter parody page about me. And, he thought he was really something. God knows what he looks like now, since this was like 13 years ago. But yeah, I do that deliberately. I deliberately look the other way. I look down. I've been doing this for, must be about 15 years now, wearing shades and wearing earphones out in public. Just avoiding people as much as I can and just talking quietly, not revealing too much about myself. Because I know, I know there's people out there, they do not want to see you shine. And it's not that you can't shine, just don't shine in front of them. You will blind them because they are darkness. You shine to yourself, you shine to your friends. Don't give any light to these losers. But yeah, the first thing they're thinking when they see you, when they see how just pure your energy is, how motivated, enthusiastic about life, you've got such high vibrational energy. They're just scratching around thinking, how can I get this out of you, like directed towards me? How can I get you to direct all of that passion and enthusiasm at me to make me feel powerful, validated, desirable? That's all they're thinking about in their minds. Because they've probably never seen anyone with such an abundance of light, positive energy before. And this is how you notice, it's like at the start of the relationship, you were so positive, optimistic. By the end of it, you become a negative person yourself because they've extracted all of your positive energy. And they just use it as supply and then to fuel them to go off to another source. Alyssa says, I was told I was crazy so many times. This is it, This is, where I talk about processing emotions, taking personal responsibility, having self-awareness, because, clearly this became normal to you in your childhood, as it did for me. Being told these things, being told that we're crazy, we're no good, we're never going to be anything. We've been conditioned to think this way. Because I can tell you this, normal people, they won't ever say that to you. And someone who didn't have this childhood conditioning, if someone comes along and calls them crazy, says some of the hurtful things that narcissists say to us, they're going to think something is off straight away. And this is how they test you. They test the waters with you. It's like the boiling frog syndrome. They try and see how much can they get away with. How much will you tolerate? Because, at this point in my healing journey, it's a red flag for me. If someone calls me crazy, if someone says anything hurtful to me, I get mad. It really stirs something up in me. Because at this point, I have developed my self-worth, and I know that I don't deserve to be talked to like that. Because I have a stronger self-awareness now. And I've processed all of these emotions. And that's really what you've got to get to, if someone calls you crazy, straight away, you feel like something is off. And, it's not always bad to be triggered by something. If someone is calling you crazy, even if it's just one time, you should be triggered by that. And even if they try and pass it off as a joke, don't let them get away with it. Because you just got to put yourself in their shoes and think about how you wouldn't call someone crazy, not even as a joke. But yeah, this is a sign of healing, is when you start to question things. Because before, you didn't question anything. It's like you just took whatever they gave to you. So this is how you know you're awakening, you're becoming aware of it now. Lorraine Dan says, if you were single and not looking for a partner, surely that's a sign you are not a narcissist. Not always, because sociopaths and psychopaths, they can actually be alone for a very long time. Of course, because they have the antisocial personality disorder. And those are people who, they act in very antisocial ways. They can be alone. And some of them, they just despise people. They'll use them, but they don't like them. And they have these extreme standards, they're waiting it out for this perfect person to come along. This ideal love. Urban Angst says it's a matter of degrees for narcissistic traits, which everyone has, to full NPD, which is a personality disorder of someone with a hollow core. There is no one there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But even with a narcissist, there's still, sometimes there could be like an underdeveloped child self. There is some disagreement among clinicians on this. But personally, from what I see, and I think sometimes that there could be some underdeveloped child self there. Because they do have some emotion. It's really just negative emotion. There's no positive emotion there. But then, of course, as you go higher up into sociopathy, and especially psychopathy, there's really just nothing there. There's no personality, nothing. It's all fake, it's all scripted. And that's how they can often appear dead, robotic. But also, victims can appear that way too. Victims can look and sound quite a bit like narcissists. Like it's like the life is just sucked out of your eyes. And you just feel so tired, so drained, and you sound that way too. Layla's asking about how I manage the empathy I have towards people. How do I not let it consume me and remain individuated? Well, I did post a video recently about how to instantly get over a trauma bond with a narcissist. That's definitely a must watch if you're looking to contain your empathy and emotions instead of just giving it away so freely. Because of course, it can be exploited. It could be used against you. It could be used to drain you. So definitely watch that video. It's really about creating like an ideal fantasy character in your mind that you open up to, so that you have some kind of a reference point. There's something that it trains your reticular activating system, the RAS in the brain. It trains it what to look for. And of course, since it's a fantasy character, it's not ever going to get triggered in real life. So this is very powerful, and I've done it myself before I made the video. And I've practiced it over quite a long period of time. And I found that yes, it is effective. And the more that you do it, the more you train your mind, the stronger it becomes. And of course, naturally, like let's say you meet someone and you want to let go of the fantasy character, you can do that as well. You just stop training your mind, and gradually the neural pathway will begin to weaken. So it's a very safe and effective way. And also there's other like Jedi mind tricks that you can use, such as just imagine visually their insignificance. Like think of them as like you're holding a balloon and you're just letting it go, watching it float into the sky, getting smaller and smaller until it eventually vanishes out of view. Or also just practice having awareness of yourself instead of constantly being aware of other people. So imagine you have like a bubble around you and just focus on the bubble surrounding you. And then imagine it getting bigger. It's all about just training your mind, because your mind has already been conditioned in a certain way that doesn't really benefit you. And, it's good to have empathy, but not too much empathy. So, if you are an empath, you definitely should not be training yourself to have more empathy, more compassion for people, because that's going to get you into a lot of trouble. So you should be trying to tune it out and instead being more selfish, focusing on yourself, and really just taking a leaf out of the Narcissist book. That's what's going to help you. Setting these ideal, unrealistic standards in your mind that no one can measure up to. And just having like extreme self-awareness, tuning everything out, having tunnel vision. but also, having the self-awareness, paying attention to it so that it doesn't get out of hand. Because if you're dealing with real people and someone is genuinely hurt and they could benefit from your help, then of course, give them a helping hand, be there for them to some extent. Not to the point where it like completely, where it begins to affect you then. Jan Campbell says they don't know the word stop. That's it, they don't know the word stop, they don't know the word no. And yeah, this is why you got to be very careful, especially if you're being intimate with them. Because you can tell them stop, you can tell them no, and they will just take it like it's like a joke. They won't take it seriously. They won't hold any weight to your words. Their priorities, their needs are more important, and in their minds, you are just an object that serves them. So don't think that your words are strong enough to stop these predators. They are wired to kill. I mean, maybe not literally, but to, really just do you in and take over you. Armani says they have that envy, jealousy, and can't feel empathy. Yeah, I've done a video on that a few years ago. I did a video titled, I think it was something like the narcissist envy overrides their empathy. And it's true, you can see that, when they get that feeling of envy, jealousy, it's kind of like they just can't care about anyone else. Because in their minds, it's like, oh, well, you got it. You have something and I don't have it. They're not thinking about how maybe you worked, you earned it. You're deserving of it. Because in their minds, they're special, they're entitled. So that envy just overrides any sense of logic. And then they've got to have it any way that they can get it. And they don't care about what they have to do. But then, of course, at some point in the future, they look back at how crazy they act, and then they do feel shame. Of course, at some level, they're thinking, they can't believe that they took it to that extreme, that they were that desperate. And honestly, it haunts them for the rest of their lives, as it should. Don't worry about these weirdos who are, they're part of a network. I've seen a few of them over the past few days, even weeks, talking about justice for Diddy and all of this stuff. But yeah, I've noticed these people, I've seen in the past, I've been around narcissists and like in my family and past relationships. I've seen them triangulate me against real criminals, like drug dealers, rapists, thieves, everything. And I've seen their mentality. And even an ex that I was with, she was like identifying with this female psychopath in a movie on the TV. And I'm thinking, every time I'm just so confused, because they portray themselves as good people. I'm thinking, why are you siding with them? Why are you siding with someone who willingly just causes harm to people and doesn't even care. Like, if you're a good person, why would you identify with or side with a rapist, a thief, a drug dealer? Like, how does that make any sense? But they do, because they see it as a source of power. So they idolize these people. They aspire to be just like them. Narcissists do. You know, narcissists, they may watch true crime. They may watch interrogations. They may read about these reports, but they are identifying with the criminals. They are aspiring to be like them. As for me, you know, if I have to talk to these types of people, or if I'm researching about it online, I'm learning from them. You know, I'm kind of learning of how not to be. It makes me aware of myself, and you know, it causes me to be more cautious, so that I don't ever end up being anything like them. So for me, it pushes me back, it pushes me out. But with them, they're kind of like, you know, they want more of a taste of it. You know, they want to get more involved in it. You know, they like that. And that's always a red flag. You know, anytime that, you know, if someone is being charged, especially convicted with, you know, anything to do with crossing people's boundaries, doing things without consent, like treating people like objects. You know, we're talking about things like rape and sex trafficking, stealing. If anyone is aspiring to be like that, or they're identifying with it in any sort of way, huge red flag. They're telling you that they are the enemy. They are your opposition. So you need to distance yourself from them. And also because if they think that that kind of stuff is acceptable, then what could happen to you if you're around them long enough? That sort of behavior may become normalized and start to rub off on you. Of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to go to the extreme of, you know, doing the exact same things that they do. But, you know, to a smaller degree, you may start to think that certain things are acceptable. It may train your mind differently. So yeah, you know, anyone who supports any of these kinds of things, they are the enemy. Anyone who supports any kind of harm against people, Aggie Homestead says they feel no guilt. They feel lots of shame. So much that they'll do anything to avoid facing it. That's it, they live their lives with shame. Just feeling completely worthless, inadequate. Just running and hiding. They live a life where they can't ever be themselves. But of course, you know, people who do these kinds of things, they never get away with it. None of this behavior is helping them. And that's why we have laws. It's not just to protect the people who these things are being done to. It's also to protect the people who are doing these things as well, because it's harmful to them too. And really, that's what this is. Anytime that anyone does anything immoral, unlawful, anything that is harming anyone, it's actually a form of self-harm. They're harming themselves. And that's why, when you love other people just as you should love yourself, when you respect other people just as you should respect yourself, that's a form of self-love. Because we are all connected. How you do one thing is how you do everything. What you do to another person is what you do to yourself. And these people are going around, they're running wild, recklessly just doing things to people that they would never want to be done to them. And that's just it. It is being done to them. They're doing it to themselves. They're harming themselves through other people. And that's why their worst punishment is if they don't take accountability. And if you don't expose them and you just let them continue. And you catch up to them when they're older, you see what they're like then. After they've gone and done all of these things. Always live a righteous life. Always live a life that is pure, free from harm, contamination. Leila says, I'm the same. Sunglasses, earphones blasting either music or narc education videos when I'm walking outside. Yeah, it definitely helps, because there's so many toxic people in the world and it can be very harmful, very distracting. And, to really preserve yourself, you've got to tune all of this out. But also, got to be careful with the earphones because, I don't know the exact volume, but at a certain level, it can cause even permanent damage to your ears. So try not to blast it too high. Just thinking of you. Because of course, as we get older, our hearing is not the same anyway. And especially, if we're listening to very loud music. And I really notice it, when I'm in these foreign countries, especially when I go to the Philippines. They have these jeepneys and these lorries and everything. And the horns are so loud. And when they're driving past, the engine, like it really starts to hurt my ears. And it feels so much better when I put my earphones in, even if I'm not playing anything on it. Because, of course, even the cars and the car horns, everything, it can all cause damage to your ears. So, it can be very helpful, to wear earphones in public if you're in a noisy area. And those of you who are going to bars and nightclubs, the sounds of the speakers in there is crazy. Like I remember when I was going to clubs a lot, and you see people dancing by the speakers, and their eardrums are just being blown out. But that's just it, you know. Some people, they may not even realize it because it just becomes like normal to them then. Funny, I was researching about something similar last night because I saw Nala looking outside the window. And I wanted to know how much can she see, like how far away. Turns out she can see probably further away than I can, but not as much detail. But yeah, protect yourselves, you know, protect your eyes, your ears, protect everything. Your body is your temple. And you only get one in this life anyway. Jan Campbell says, you can't undo what you see. Oh, yeah, it's true. And you can tell when someone has seen some horrific things. You can see it in their eyes. You really can. I mean, it's a big difference. Like people you see who are just like wide-eyed, you know they've seen some things. I mean, just look at some videos, like with some interviews of some like whistleblowers or conspiracy theorists. And if you see that their eyes are like wide open, you know, yes, they've definitely seen some things. They definitely know something. And you can see it all in my eyes. I mean, you know, the things I've seen. I mean, I don't know if I will ever, will I ever get over it completely? I don't know. I mean, I've healed to a certain extent, definitely. I mean, I feel pretty good in my body most of the time. And usually I can think quite clearly. But yeah, you can definitely see the pain in my eyes. I mean, you know, from a very young age, you know, just literally like years, even months after I first came into the world, I saw things I never wanted to see. And I'm sure, you know, it has scarred me for life. But it's definitely a part of who I am now. But that's just how it is, you know. We have to learn from these experiences and try to manage the exposure to harmful stimulus. And Mantodi says, you have to play these power tripping narcissists, bro. Play the game and after you smash, dash. Oh. I mean, you can try that, but if you are an empath, it's gonna hurt you far more than you think you're hurting them. I mean, actually, I'll tell you a story. I might have mentioned this already, but this is one thing. This haunts me even to this day. I think I have mentioned it before, but I'll tell it again. this was back when I was, it's when I first started dating. I mean, when I was 22, that was when I first lost my virginity to my first girlfriend, and we were both virgins at the time. And it didn't last long. I mean, by the end of the year, we already broke up. But I'm pretty sure she was highly narcissistic. Her family were narcissists. They were very violent, aggressive, and I was very quiet, calm. They took advantage of that. But yeah, by the end of the year, I saw another girl, and she was a police officer. And that it turned out, I found out then, I saw on her Facebook, she was engaged to her fiance, who she met like 4 years ago. And then I messaged his brother on Facebook, told him everything, that she was sleeping with me, and I had no idea that she was about to get married. So that was my second dating experience with a woman after the first one with a narcissist. And then the third one, I mean, talking about what you were mentioning there, play the game after you smash, dash. I met this girl, and she was a Latina. And, she was pretty cute. I was 22, she was 17, and, that's legal in the UK. But, yeah, we were dating, we dated twice, and we ended up sleeping together. But I was kind of young. I kind of pressured her into it, but she consented, she agreed, and then she took me upstairs. But then after, I ended up talking to another girl, and she was far more like skinnier, more attractive. And so then I went to see her, and yeah, she was very upset about that. And I knew, I hurt this girl. And that really got to me. And then also, I think this was probably about a year later, and I was with this new girl, and then we were going through all these problems. And then it seemed that she was highly narcissistic. And then I looked back on this Latina girl's Facebook, and then I saw a picture that she's in Disneyland with her new boyfriend. I thought, So, really served me right. Thinking that I was choosing up. I mean, I was just inexperienced. And yeah, but that definitely plays in my mind. I feel like I did something wrong there. Like I pressured her into something. And yeah, she seemed like she was quite angry at me after that. But I didn't really have the self-awareness at the time. But what I'm saying is, if you're doing stuff like that, playing the game, as you say, like after you smash, dash, that's really bad. And that should be a crime if it isn't already. Because, you're really, you're messing with someone's feelings. It's sexual exploitation. But of course, if you're dealing with a narcissist and you find out later on, you may end up having to do that. But there's a reason for it. You're not just like having sex with someone and take it off. But it's wrong, exploitation of any kind, whether it's a woman doing it for money, a man doing it for sex. Make your intentions clear. Don't deceive people. Don't exploit them. It's damaging. It's traumatic. And, you could be ruining it for someone else. Someone who's not going to be that way. And to be honest, now when I look back and I remember, seeing that girl, she moved on and she was with her boyfriend in Disneyland. I'm happy for her. And I'm glad that she did move on from me. And I hope that she has and just forgot about me, because, of course I look back and I think, wow, I was a real jerk. I never did anything like that since. But, yeah, I definitely feel like what I did back then was wrong. And, that's all a part of the journey, is having the self-awareness, taking personal responsibility. But I think, what makes it so painful for me is that she was an orphan as well, from Guatemala, living with her foster parents. So I think that's why it really just plays on my mind to this day. If I could go back, of course, I would have acted differently. But then also I accepted I was a product of my environment. Being around toxic people and the horrific supposed relationships that I had, the two before I met that girl. I mean, they did shocking things to me. But of course, that doesn't justify how I acted. But this is it, this is how you find peace. It's by looking back through your life and, seeing all of the times that you could have done better, or where you didn't act appropriately, or even when things were done to you. It's about going back and processing these things, no matter how hurtful, no matter how much it just makes you feel like a completely rotten person. You have to go back and process these things, because it's only going to be hurting you if you don't. But I don't think you should regret. I mean, even if you've done something bad, I mean, you got to recognize that's just where you were in the mind at that time. That was what you wanted at that time. So you can't really regret it, because that wasn't even you. I mean, who you are now is a completely different person. So you can't go back. You can't really put yourself in your shoes of how you were before. That's a completely different version of you. I mean, every 3 years, all of our cells regenerate. So you should never have to live with regrets. I mean, just accept it, learn from it, and then move on. Regret is low vibrational. You have to move up to acceptance. And then that's how you then move to peace and love. scrolling through the live chats. Give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful so far. Can't believe it, we still got trolls in here. God, these trolls must have nothing better to do. I mean, they're still watching 90 minutes in something that they can't even relate to. It's like if you hate the Kardashians and you're watching the Kardashians for 90 minutes. Layla says, run away after the first red flag. Not worth sticking around and wasting time wondering. Life is too short. Yeah, run away after the first, if it's a big red flag, or if it's not so bad, then maybe call them out in it. See if they do it again, see if they improve. And yeah, then just figure it out from there. So many comments, I'm quite far behind, I think. I am really far behind. Merlo No says, I really just missed the old me. Yeah, but you gotta remember, the old you didn't know. You didn't know what you were dealing with. The people you were around, that world, it was fake. It wasn't how you thought it was. Jennifer Francis says, we all make mistakes, and thank you for being open about your experience. Yeah, it was quite hard for me to express that story. Because, of course, to this day, it still haunts me because, I was 22, she was 17, she was 5 years younger. She only had one boyfriend before me, and she was an orphan from Guatemala, on the other side of the world from Britain. So all of these things kind of like play on my mind. But also, what I should say as well, in my defense, I remember when we first started talking in the messages on Facebook, she said something like, she was kind of provoking me. She said something like, sucky, sucky. So, I can't be, I can't carry all of the guilt. She wasn't completely innocent. She was kind of egging me on. So So I'm glad I remember that now in my defense. And hopefully people who hear that story, they hear this as well. Because, that is an important part of it. It's not like I was dealing with someone and it was completely unprovoked and, there was no suggestion. But also, keep in mind, this is like 13 years ago. I was much younger then, but yeah, it's wrong to smash and dash, pump and dump. It is wrong to do that. And you're harming yourself by doing it. And then you have to live with it for the rest of your life. Have respect for women. Of course, if they're open to you and, they're reciprocating, then that's okay. We live in a world where that is okay now. It didn't used to be okay, but now it is. So, it's acceptable. But definitely do not pressure anyone into anything. And do not mislead them. Do not deceive them. And, that's a big part of what narcissistic abuse can be sometimes. I mean, you're led into believing that it's a connection, it's something deeper, and they're just used for sex and you're left just feeling worthless, like you're just a body to them. Of course, that's not really going to be, it's not going to be damaging to you if that's what you were looking for. But if you were thinking about a connection or something deeper, then of course it's going to harm you. But yeah, these narcissists are never going to move on. Most of them, they're never going to heal. They're never going to move past the things they did to you because they never even self-reflect. They never go within. They lack self-awareness. They don't process their emotions. They just don't take accountability for anything. So how can they move on if they don't even accept that there's something to move on from? If you don't accept that there's something to move on from, you remain stuck. It remains open-ended, not closed, so it stays open. And this is why they keep chasing after your validation, because they refuse to give it to themselves. They refuse to go within. And this is why they're going to remain stuck on you. And you will start to see all of these weird things. So yeah, this is how you know. They haven't moved on from you. They're not going to move on. They likely never will. And this is it. You want to know when someone is moving on, like when they're beginning to move on. They're going to start to be more open with you. They're going to give you the validation, the closure that you're looking for. That's the sign of someone who's trying to move on. Someone who's trying to put it in the past and they're trying to clear things with you. They're trying to end the chapter. That's someone who wants to move on. They don't want to move on. I mean, they do, but they don't want to go through the pain of it, the acceptance, the accountability. So they can't move on. They never will. You can move on by accepting that this person doesn't want to. They don't want to give you closure. They don't want to close the book. So you can move on by accepting that. And yeah, they can't. Because they're never going to accept that. And if they did, you would know, because they would be open with you about it. They would give you closure. So this is how you know that they're never going to move on. They're going to remain stuck on you. And I'm sure there's some of you who are watching that video I posted 4 or 5 years ago with the same title as this. And some of you may have seen that video, you may be watching this one now, and they still haven't moved on. And that's just it, no matter how many years go by, they're never going to move on. And we can move on from them. But still, researching about this and learning more about narcissists, there's always more narcissists out there. They're always going to pose some level of a threat to you. So it's important to stay educated, because it's relevant. It's always going to be relevant. There's never going to be a time when this information is not relevant. It's everywhere, now more than ever. And, that's why I continue doing what I do, learning about it myself, constantly researching, putting these videos out there, because this is not going anywhere. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this video, do hit the thumbs up button. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and the bell icon so that you will be notified when I go live again or when I upload a new video. And drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I've said here? Have you got anything else to add? Any questions? Let's start a discussion together. And if you would like guidance or support your healing journey, you can book a one-on-one with me. Just go to narcsurvivor.co.uk. Your donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can donate by going to paypal.me/narcsurvivor. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's Narc Survivor YouTube. And we do have a Facebook group as well. Join us on there. So yeah, that's it for this one today. Thank you all. And I look forward to speaking with you in another Narc Survivor live video very soon.